said, she gonna say, I'm nervous and I'm not gonna be able to think.
All right, you ready? You gotta go. Thank you for coming in, Ms. Smith. I'm Dr. Kayla Jordan. How are you?
I am pretty good.
And I'm glad to have you in here today to interview for the instructional coach vacancy that we have here at Whitehead Road Elementary. We're looking for someone who demonstrates teacher leadership and who can build rapport with our teachers so that to just build that relationship so teachers feel comfortable asking questions and following your lead and things of that nature. We're looking at someone who is very familiar with student data and looking at that, making suggestions and recommendations based on that. So I'm going to ask you a few questions relative to the position, and at the end I'll give you the opportunity to ask me any questions. Does that sound okay?
Sounds perfect.
To start off, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I am a 39-year-old. I have 3 children. My background in education, I actually started out as a substitute teacher. And I would go around and substitute in classes. I primarily tried to stay around the area where my oldest daughter was in school, and then I gained a passion for just wanting to be in the classroom all the time. So the next school year I interviewed for a paraprofessional position, so I began with the Even Start program. The Even Start program was a program for parents that were working on their GED and parents that were learning ESOL. So while they were in class, their children would come to our classroom. And it was a half-day program, so we had one session in the morning, one session in the afternoon. But that program was federally funded, and eventually the funds were cut and we were all dispersed. And then they brought the program back as the Right Start program. In between that, I kind of left Clark County, but not necessarily left. I was still under the Clark County umbrella, and I went to work for Early Head Start because I had finished my associate's degree at Athens Tech. So I worked for Head Start for about a year until they started the Right Start program back up, and then I came back to Clark County as a lead teacher in the Right Start program. And I could work as a lead teacher with an associate degree because it was federally funded, which was pretty strange because my parapro actually had a bachelor's degree, but I had an associate degree, so it was kind of a strange fit, but it worked well because we were in a mixed classroom. After that, I decided I need to go full-time and just become a teacher. So I went back to school and I gained my bachelor's degree. As soon as I finished my bachelor's degree, I began working here at Whitehead, which is the best decision I have ever made because we have this warm, inviting school culture that I just love. And I've subbed at different places, and even working with Even Start and Right Start, we have this family atmosphere that you gain when you enter the building. So I wouldn't have chosen, I didn't choose the worst place, I chose the best place in Clark County to work. So that's where I am right now. I went back to school while working here at Clark County to gain my master's at Piedmont. So my master's and my bachelor's came from Piedmont. And I actually began Piedmont in a cohort from Athens Tech. So eventually I will return to school and get my specialist, and one day I will become a doctor.
All right. Tell me a little bit about your leadership.
At the moment, as far as kindergarten is concerned, I feel like I serve as the assistant team leader. Constance Moody is actually our kindergarten team leader, but I'm like her support to make sure all of our information is relayed, all of our emails are answered. Kind of like a go-between with kindergarten, our team leader, and administration, just to make sure everything is covered. I am also the team leader for our PBIS team, and that's our positive behavior interventions that we're putting on around the school. You'll see our posters hanging, with the koalas and all the expectations we have for that. I also serve on our SILT team for helping with the school improvement plan. I recently have dropped, but was a member of our math team. I had too many committees going on at one time. I have started up the Black History Committee once again, and I serve on the PTO board.
Wow, you have a full schedule.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, can you give me an example of students' higher order thinking skills that you may have observed in a classroom or you may have used in your own classroom?
Well, I teach kindergarten, and when it comes to higher order thinking in kindergarten, I kind of try to get them to not give me one word answers, but to expand their thinking. So when it comes to, let me think of, if I'm going with math and I'm thinking of higher order, I would, instead of just, a story problem as an example, instead of just giving me, oh, I had 2 apples and I added 2 more apples, now I have 4 apples, how did you get your answer? I need you to explain, oh, I had 2 apples and then I put 2 more with it and then I counted 1, 2, 3, 4 and now I have 4 as my answer. Trying to get them to expand on their thinking.
All right, what do you find most frustrating in working with other people? And then think about, what do you think most people might find frustrating about working with you?
So as far as working with me, what people find frustrating sometimes is when you bring things to the table with me, sometimes I need a little bit more time to think about how I want to proceed. And I've noticed in our kindergarten team that some people are ready for the answer right then. And how do you feel about this? And where do you want to go with this? I need more time to think. So they want to go ahead with a decision before I've come up with my feelings on the decision. So I think people that are gung-ho and ready to get things popping, they want to go ahead with their thing. We had a situation that came up in our kindergarten team, and it was, do we continue to use CGI or do we just drop CGI and just move on with our regular math? And I felt like I was kind of broadsided by it because why would we ever drop CGI? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Well, I think it's a good plan and this is what we're going to go ahead with. But then I didn't speak and I didn't stand my ground. But then I came back a week later and I was like, look, this is why CGI is important to me, and this is why I feel CGI is important to our children, and I think we need to keep it on. And then the more we talked about it, the rest of the team was like, yeah, you know what? We do need to continue to do it. It's in our district plans and it makes sense. And so we did keep it, but I personally need more time than I guess some people to get my feelings about why I think things are important. I'm just not always ready at the moment to tell you how I feel about something. So I need more time to think. And I think my problem with other people is pretty much that same situation. They're ready to jump on it. They're ready to go. This is how I feel. Let's move ahead. And I think some things we need to think about and get everybody's opinion on what they think. And if they need time to go off and think about it and come back as a group and then share their feelings, that's what I think we need to do. So moving too fast and not thinking things out totally is a situation where I think it makes me unhappy in a group. So
okay. What kind of teachers do you work best with, and what kind of you challenge the most by?
I like happy-go-lucky people. I like teachers that have their students as their first priority, because my students are always my first priority. I like teachers that like to come together and help one another. I feel like we do have a great atmosphere in our kindergarten team, and we do like to help one another. I feel like we need to do it more as far as our newer teachers are concerned. I think we need to share more ideas on a regular basis. When we get ready to start a unit, I feel like we do a good job of that. but it's the continual, here's new lesson plans, here's new activities, I have ideas about this. I feel like we need to come back to the table more often than we do. So I want teachers around me that are willing to share and that are willing to take some of my ideas. And you don't have to do it the same way I do it, but try it. See if you like it. And I'm that way. I want to try something, see if I like it. I kind of tweak it so it fits me. And I really like to work with people that like to do the same.
And so what kind of teachers challenge you?
Teachers that are stuck in their ways. They only want to do things one way. And they think their way is the only way and the best way.
All right. Describe ways you have given constructive and frequent feedback to teachers, whether it's through like observation, student performance data, or things of that nature.
Well, I guess I can go with observation. At the moment, I have a student teacher, and I feel like we have a great rapport between the two of us. And she does many, many lessons in class, and she's always very open and willing to hear any feedback, which makes it easier. But we had a situation where she reads stories to the class, and she's like zooming through the stories, and she's really, really fast. So we came back to the table and we talked about slowing down and asking more questions throughout the story just to get their feedback and making sure they're understanding how the story is progressing throughout. And she was very open to it, and her next read was very slow and kind of laid back, and I feel like the children were engaged much more because of her questioning throughout. So she would stop and have them repeat. Her question would be related to whatever she's just read, and it was almost as though they were repeating the information. So they're engaged in the story, and then at the end of the story, they were able to give more feedback on questions.
Okay. So tell me about your perception about requiring all students to be held to the same standards as the highest performing students in the classroom.
I think all children have the ability to reach the highest level in class. It doesn't matter where they start. You just keep pushing and keep driving until they get there. You look at where they are, see where you need to take them, give them the skills. You scaffold the learning until they can get there.
All right, tell me about how you've used student data to guide your planning of professional learning.
Really, in reading groups, that's what we do all day. In math groups, not all day, every day. In math groups, it's the same. So in math, we give a pretest to see exactly where they are, what they know, and then we set up groups that are differentiated based on the data that we've gotten from their pretest. And within that, watching them in their small groups, you're looking at how well they're picking up the concept. So, I mean, that's data and information in itself. You're taking anecdotal notes, even if they're mental or on paper, you're seeing how they progress through whatever standard it is you're working on. And then from that, you still give them quick formative assessments to see where they are. And the more they grow, you change their groups, and then we go back again to scaffolding the learning. Then you can take them to the next step, which is going to drive them toward the standard. So I differentiate with the groups. I also build onto their learning. It helps me know the next step to give them to guide them to their standard.
Okay.
And the same thing is in reading.
Tell me about a time when you took something directly from professional learning or professional development workshop that you've attended and shared it with your colleagues or used it within your classroom.
I would go back to the, what is it called? Because I don't call it by its name, but it is when we number talks. And when I talk to the children, I don't really use the term number talks, but we are looking at different activities and seeing how we can work through them, looking at quantities and seeing the different ways children can show their thinking with number talks. And when we came back as a group after we did professional learning about number talks, we discussed ways that we can implement it into our everyday lesson plan. So at the beginning of the year, we worked with more number talks than we do now, but because we right now pull more CGI into our math plans. But
All right, tell me about a goal you have for improving your knowledge and skills, your own person. I know you mentioned something about your obtaining your specialist and going forward with your doctorate, but do you have any other personal goals? Professional goals, sorry.
Personal professional goals. I would love to, and I don't know if it's possible, I've never seen it done before, I would love to shadow a principal or shadow an assistant principal just to see, their day-to-day workings, because eventually I see myself as an assistant principal or principal in a school. But being in the classroom, you can't see the ins and outs of that. So eventually I would love to get there. Okay. So going back to school would be part of that, learning how to work in a leadership position, because leadership is similar, but it's different from being in the classroom. Yes, I'm a leader here. I can give activities for my parent to do. We work well together. I can lead a student teacher to being a great teacher. I can help, my team with lessons and show them the way I do it, hoping that it's going to enhance the way that they do their lessons. But looking at it from the administrative aspect, I feel it's totally different. So I would love to get some background.
What has been your experience collaborating or networking with colleagues about improvement of student learning?
We don't do it as much as we used to, but we do take our ESGI data and we try to look and make groups. It's mainly for our EIP, but we make groups to grow our children. We look at where they're starting out, what groups are best for them, so we can lead them to the highest learning they're possible to get before they leave us. Does that totally answer the question? You want to read it again?
Yes.
Did I get all parts?
My question is, what has been your experience collaborating or networking with colleagues about how to improve student performance?
So we have taken our math test and looked at the post-test and looked at the grades that they have received and put them into groups within our classroom. Then we come back after we've looked at that data to see how well they've done, and we group them again from looking at that data. So as far as math is concerned, we looked at the students that made 70 or below, and then we've taken those students and added an extra small group into our math. So even though we've moved to the next section, we're no longer on measurement, but we're working on data analysis in class. So like graphing would be for kindergarten. So while we're working on graphing, we still have another small group that's over here to the side that's still working on the measurement aspect. And while they're rotating in their stations, they'll still get the data information, the analysis with the graphing that we're working on in class, but they still have the opportunity to pick up those skills that they didn't quite get when we were actually doing measurement.
What experience do you have measuring student progress with state-provided standardized testing?
Honestly, not very much, because in kindergarten we don't really have a state set level that I know of that we need to achieve, no more than what they give us on the standards. But I have seen that done with like 3rd and 5th a little bit when we're collaborating in our SILT team meeting. Looking at, so we have 3rd grade and goal is to be at 85 or 95%. How do we get them there? What activities can we have our students do so we can help them achieve this goal by the end of the year? So what I've seen in SILT team is pretty much my experience with that, but not hands-on as far as kindergarten is concerned.
And so is kindergarten the only grade level that you've taught?
Yes.
All right. Those are all the questions I have for you. Do you have any questions for me?
When would the position, when would you expect us to be ready, or me to be ready for the first day if I were to be hired in your position?
Okay, so you're actually my last interview.
Okay.
So we're looking to make a decision very soon, and we're gonna contact all of the candidates by email. But I'll personally make a phone call to the candidate that we select. So I'm hoping to have a decision made by the beginning of next week, probably about Tuesday at the latest.
Okay. And I did read your flyer about the qualifications and the expectations, but can you elaborate a little bit on the expectations for your for the position?
Yes, so we're looking for someone to basically guide our teachers to a higher instructional level, to help us look at where we are and where we're going as far as our school improvement plan, and just providing teachers with the tools and to help increase the instructional strategies, because the ultimate goal is to increase student achievement and student performance. So just working with the teachers, maybe modeling lessons, providing resources. We do have a lot of trainings within the district, so you may be in and out of the building a lot, going to trainings. We kind of work with other schools, so you know, if it's something that you maybe need to, not brush up on, but just something that may not be an area of strength. We do have schools that we collaborate with, so you could go observe other coaches or other teachers. So we do a lot of collaboration within the school and outside of the school, just within the district in general. So just having somebody who's confident. I know everybody's not strong in all areas, but just as you're here to build teacher capacity, you know, your capacity as a coach will be built as well.
And that kind of led into my next question, where there'll be trainings involved so I could be the best instructional coach there is.
Oh yeah, our district has a instructional coach cohort, and they meet the first Thursday of every month. And I think just recently this year they have specifically for coaches with 0 to 3 years of experience. I think they may go like in the morning, and then all of the coaches meet in the afternoon. And the coaches, from my understanding, they do a lot of collaboration. So they share resources, and they kind of take the new coaches under their wing. Because I mean, it's even working in the building, it's a different role, because you know, you're outside of the classroom, you see a lot more, and so the expectation is different. You know, just like the expectation in kindergarten for student performance is different than 5th grade. But yeah, so it will definitely be some capacity built there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much for coming in today. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Okay, thanks.